Hello creatives, and welcome to the 10th and already final episode of the Tailored Wellness. Today, I'm talking to you about fashion and spirituality, and the fashion of spirituality. Two different things. Why spirituality? As I've mentioned before on this podcast, it's something that saved me. It's a bit of a strong word, but I think it's something along those lines. But above all, it supported me. And it opened my eyes to what life is, to what gives things meaning, and to a world that is full of richness, beliefs, cultures, and diversity. At first, I was quite embarrassed to talk about it because it covers so much. Shall we cover the whole spectrum? It's broad. Astrology, human design, shamanism, the invisible, mediumship, tarot, cards, crystals. On the New Age side, I've forgotten 3/4 of it. There's so much, really, but it's not about the New Age. That's not what I want to talk to you about. For me, it's more in a universal sense, something that belongs to the realm of the invisible, but is still present, the question of energy. The first thing that comes to mind is that it's not a religion. For me, it's a... Is it a belief? Maybe, I don't know. Because for me, spirituality is the spirit in English. It's the mind or spirit. It's what drives us to do things. This idea of energy. A long time ago, I was very down to earth. If you talk to me about energy, if you talk to me about the invisible, no, thank you. Since then, things have changed a lot because of what I've been through, because of different experiences. And often, experience then goes on to create beliefs. And when I did my research on spirituality, I started from the principle that I experience something, and then I try to understand it, and not the other way around, telling myself, I know it exists, so I'll look for reasons to justify my belief. Those are two completely different approaches. In my work today, there's something a bit ethereal, as they say in English, a bit cosmic, something sacred, but in a very gentle way, not necessarily something I fully embrace. And for me, it was a way of talking about it. Today, it was really about saying, well, yes, I am a Reiki master. Reiki, as I explained a bit in another episode, is a Japanese healing technique using the laying on of hands, which for me is a tool for... How can I put it? It's about working on subtle bodies, invisible bodies, on emotions, on feelings, which simply helps you move forward, helps you get things moving, helps you feel good, feel aligned. And I think that's what really heats up. Because when I do Reiki, my hands get warm. It's a very strange sensation. By the way, I'd like to explain. I should explain what you feel when you practice it. Often, my hands get warm and actually, it's a bit like entering a different state where, really, you're sort of channeling something, and when you place your hand on a body, you're feeling different textures. So, I think everyone's already had magnets in their hands at some point. So, either they attract each other, or they repel. And it's a bit the same thing. So, either you're drawn in, or you're pushed away. Which, in turn, helps you realize that there's something there. It's not necessarily something negative or positive, but there's something that needs working on. And so, the energy is channeled universally through the hands into the body. I admit, it does sound very strange, but I really encourage you to look into it and find out more about it. It's a bit like... There was an experiment where two plants were placed in different rooms. One plant was spoken to with only loving words, good vibes, I love you, and so on. And in the other room, only nasty words, like you're fat, and so on. The plant that received love kept on living, while the other one died. Energy is a frequency, and that's what either kills or sustains something. Reiki energy is something that gives life. It's the energy of living things. We don't heal everything, that's not the point. but it's a spiritual practice for well-being. Even though, to be honest, I don't really like the term well-being. Wellness is really a 360-degree thing. Not long ago, a friend of mine came over and asked me to give her a session. Without knowing much about her personal life over the past few months, I managed to bring out some things she'd buried deep inside and didn't really want to talk about. And I was surprised myself to see what could come out of it. And it's also about understanding the blockages we can sometimes have in a very tangible way in our everyday lives. How, in fact, they're present in the body as well. Once again, it's the machine. It's the hard drive that's been programmed. Or, for example, when there's a trauma. Let's pick something a bit obvious, shall we? Someone gets bitten by a dog, and so when that person is faced with a dog, they're inevitably going to panic. Even if the dog is as gentle as a teddy bear, the body has recorded, beware, dog equals trauma. And it's about how energy can deactivate these memories on a psychoenergetic level, so you can diffuse and move beyond that trauma. There you go, that's the theory. In practice, it's sometimes more complicated, sometimes not. Often, healing is as complex as we want it to be, or as simple as we want it to be. And in all of this, there are other tools, of course. These days, I do a lot of family and systemic constellations without going into detail. It's as if you were bringing your unconscious onto the mat with people who come along, channeling the unconscious of different subjects. And in fact, the dynamic will be displayed, it will take shape, and you'll be able to understand what's happening unconsciously in that blockage, that relationship, that problem. And as a result, you'll be able to take a step back, and it will also actually apply the resolution. That's not the right word, but anyway. No, sorry, it's about unraveling the issue. And that, I think, is the best tool I've discovered since the beginning, honestly. I do this once every month. Once every 2 or 3 months. And it's a bit like my little mental health hygiene routine now. The trend of spirituality is also something I've noticed in recent years, something I've seen, I think of Dior, with Maria Grazia Kaiui, who used tarot cards, Palo Santo. You know what Palo Santo is? That little would you burn, which smells really nice, by the way. Tarot decks, semi-precious stones like, tourmaline, labradorite, tiger's eye, all the beliefs that get built up around these things. And what's quite funny is that I've been through that phase myself. Yes, I admit it, but at the start, it was a bit naive and, at the same time, very wholesome. And well, whether stones have power or not, some believe it, some don't. Honestly, these days, I don't need stones, but I once met someone who managed to meditate with a stone in their hands, and I found that incredible. Well, this was someone who meditated a lot. Someone who was always eating super healthily, whose whole life revolved around this spiritual practice. So, a very pure energy, and in fact, he managed to master this stone, and what I saw with the stone in his hands, it was like a magnet. It was really strange. And when you're faced with that, you can only say, well, I didn't believe in it, but obviously it does make me question my beliefs and it changes what I thought. So yes, there are trends like that, a bit of spirituality. Oh no, but I'm too aligned, I'm not aligned, which honestly gets exhausting quite quickly. It's everywhere on Instagram. It kind of distorts the image of everything. That too. I've met shamans, I've met healers, I've met people from all sorts of practices. But what's quite funny is that no matter where they come from, they all have the same theory, deep down. In the end, I'll just take a quick break up here. The bottom line is that, actually, what's underneath all that is the same thing. Whether you're talking about shamanism in South America or shamanism in Mongolia, they don't have the same tools or names, but they're describing the same thing. And that's what fascinated me at the time. Why do I also, in my turn, want to fall into the trend without necessarily creating Blazer 3.0 infused with positive energy. We're not into that sort of thing. It's more about wanting to create a space where you can come to recharge, to recenter yourself. The clothing is there to embody this philosophy, this lifestyle, and to support it. When I wear Posoro style, it's as someone who thinks about spirituality, who thinks about serenity, but above all, someone who thinks about alignment. In fact, with what it is, I want to create this space for creative healing encounters. Let's just say it's a work in progress, with ideas taking shape, and what I want to offer after this podcast, and then after that as well. What will become of this podcast in the coming times? I'll come back to that at the end, not much later. But there you go. I want to create this space where I've learned a lot about so many things. I have lots of friends with ideas around me, people who have had blockages in their lives, and I want to be able to offer this space. Because I also feel that, deep down, my whole life path has led me to this, where I've had to learn to face challenges, certain challenges. I've learned to listen to others. I've learned to. So, that's my brain, which has a rather incredible ability to gather all the crumbs, the puzzle pieces, and put the puzzle together. Sometimes, I get a dopamine rush in my brain that tells me that's what's brilliant. It's annoying because my mind keeps racing, which is unbearable. Is that from trauma or just how I am? I don't know. Still, it can be useful if used well. And sometimes, when I'm talking with my best friend, I say to him, "Wait," and he says, "What's up?" I go, "Wait, I've got a hunch," and I tell him what comes to mind and he says, "Bloody hell, you're right." And I think there's nothing more satisfying than that feeling of bloody hell. When someone feels better or I've helped someone overcome a challenge, it's not at all out of any sense of pretension that I do it. It's not like, "Look at me, I'm showing off to you." I've managed to unlock that. It's just that it gives me something inside, a feeling that says, "You've done your job," and that's just, honestly, there's no price you can put on that. There's just no price for that kind of thing. Intuition is about connection. Human beings have aligned with what I stand for in my work. It's more than just clothing as well. It's about creating a community, and it's also about how I can, in turn, pass on what I've learned, what was passed on to me. When I did Reiki, when I worked with shamans, when I worked with different people. And I also don't want to talk about it in a way that makes it sound like a cult or something a bit odd. It's really more about making this idea accessible, that it's a space. These are tools which, when used properly, can do. I want to say miracles, because in this case, I really think that I am a miracle, considering everything that's happened in the past 10 years, and I wish the same for others. But there are no guarantees, and it's always each person's own work on themselves that moves things forward. And what I love today, around me, is that when I talk about these ideas, they really resonate with others, and it feels so good to me. We're going to go and have our therapy session, in quotation marks and with a laugh. Of course, once again, I'm not a therapist or a psychologist. I'm here to support you, like a little bird. We're going to put on some nice clothes and talk about our moods and our broken hearts, about our traumas, openly and without judgment. And I find it quite funny because, as a result, topics that are really heavy these days, we see it with all the things that can get to us on social media. But there's this thing. We talk about it. We're visible. We want to feel good. Especially the younger generations, they're the first to set boundaries and limits, to say stop and to say no to everything that we, ourselves, have been able to accept and what previous generations accepted. But for us, that's it. It's finished. We want well-being. We want balance in our lives. We want to have fun. We want to enjoy ourselves, but not at any cost. And today, I want to respond to that. I want to share that, a truly 360-degree vision of what I, as a designer, as a creator, as a human being, can offer others today in a holistic way. You come to us for a suit, if you like. You can have a creative healing session with someone. You can have a cup of tea and talk to us about a fascinating topic, about your creativity. It's really an exciting ambition. It's new, It might be risky, but it's also fun to do. And once again, we're not curing cancer, but we're making beautiful clothes and beautiful things. I think I'm reaching the end of the episode, and to give you a teaser for what's coming next on the podcast, the next 10 episodes will feature guests. And the idea, once again, is to be a safe space with creatives for creatives to make it a community. So ask me any questions you'd like answered, all your curiosities, your feedback, anything you want to know, and we'll be delighted to try to answer as much as possible in the upcoming episodes. Thank you for listening to Tell All Wellness, and I'll see you soon.